Welcome back to the Pro Football Pod. It's your boys, Coach Austin and Hulk, talking to you about some fantasy football week 5. If Jamar Chase finally popped off for you, you're welcome. You heard it here first.
They
Now,
Who did?
Who Dey indeed. We had some interesting games, starting off with the Jags being home field advantage in London, like we said. It was crazy to me that they weren't actually home field advantage. The Bills fans were so loud in that game. There were so many instances where the Jags were messing up on offense, and Lawrence was out there just trying to hear the play. And we expected them to have full home field the whole time. So it was nice to see that the 1 week stay over in London was all that they needed to pull off a little victory and help the Dolphins move up to number 1 in the AFC East.
Not only pull off a victory, but they look good doing it. Like they finally look like the Jags team we've been waiting for. It's over there in London, so we'll see how they look when they get back over here. But
Well, I think on the Bills side too, and I mean, I know it got mentioned a lot in the Dolphins Bills game with how well the Bills were able to run the ball. But I think it shows you too, like if you can stop the Bills from running and make them one dimensional, Josh Allen throwing for 360 yards does not matter. Like they
No.
need to be able to run the ball, and the just running was invisible the entire game for them. Now, most of the second half they were playing from behind, but it's not like they were behind by 2 scores where they had to throw it every time.
Exactly. They still had the chance to control the ball, and they really didn't. And like Austin said, the Jags showed up across the board. Travis Etienne's running back 4 on the year. Big, big surprise. Nobody really expected him. I mean, I think he was 20th taken in drafts most of the time, barely top
I'm
20.
all over him.
Mm-hmm.
He's finally doing it though. I feel like he had a slow start.
He felt like it because of like just having not great games, but now he's put up 2 back-to-back bangers. And like you said, Ridley finally showed up, but their whole receiving core. I mean, Zay Jones had a touchdown. Evan Ingram had his catches and his yards. Christian Kirk was all over it, and then Ridley didn't do anything until the end of the third, into the fourth quarter. But whenever he turned it on, he turned it on. 7 for 120 and a touchdown. I mean, that's exactly what we're looking for from a guy like that. That's why we said last week that even though he struggled, you have to keep playing him because he could pop off.
So it did appear like Josh Allen had some jet lag because the man was throwing up on the sidelines, and they panned on him for a good amount of time, hacking up along.
A little
That
bit
was
too much,
not
but
pleasant.
Well, a lot of it too was because I mean the guy was literally doing everything he had to out there. I mean it's not like he had an abysmal game. Percentage wise, 27 of 40, 359 yards, 2 touchdowns, had the 1 interception, only 14 yards rushing for him, but they only had 29 as a team, like I said, and he had the rushing touchdown. So honestly, kind of a typical Josh Allen game. Stephon Diggs, 8 for 121 and a touchdown. Gabe Davis, 6 for 100 and a touchdown.
I want to point out Gabe Davis 4 straight weeks with a touchdown. At this point, are we thinking Gabe is trustworthy enough to put in the flex? He's
For
obviously
sure.
touchdown dependent, but he's big play Gabe. I mean, he's getting it done. Josh is finding him. I think
PPR, you take that touchdown away, he still gave you 16, and he got 8 targets, which we've
that's
said
the
all year.
baseline.
That's the money. Like that's what you're wanting. Like if you're wanting to look at somebody that can start for you in the flex spot, like baseline honestly is 6 targets.
Yeah,
So
I agree. He's a
Gabe
wide
Davis,
receiver too at this point.
yeah, Gabe Davis, I think for sure. If which where you drafting him, he probably is a flex, and he's just a
Oh, where you
bona
drafted
fide
him?
flex for him.
He's wide receiver 12 on the year.
Yeah,
Gabe Davis is a wide receiver 1 technically. I wouldn't start him there. I would start him as a wide receiver 2 just because I think that he'll absolutely hit that cap
now
every week.
most people probably drafted Stephon early and Gabe late.
Hmm.
Do you think they've shown enough the last few weeks to where you'd feel confident starting both?
It's tough on any
Obviously,
offense
depends
to
on
do
like the
that.
matchup. Like if it's the Jets, you
Okay,
probably don't want to do that.
I like
But
that.
in a matchup like this versus the Jags, or I mean an interdivision rival like the Dolphins and stuff, I do think matchup dependent Gabe at your flex and Stefan starting at your wide receiver one, I mean, I wouldn't be scared to do it. It's not like it would brush me off because if I had Tyreek and Waddle, I would I would still start them both in the same
Agreed.
lineup. And Gabe Davis to this point has outperformed Waddle.
He has. I don't think that that will last all season. I think that Waddle will ramp up. He missed one game and he's just been having a couple of subpar weeks. This week he had 10 targets for 5 catches with a bunch of yards and a touchdown. So I think that to answer your question, yeah, I'd probably start both. Especially you're gonna get at least you're starting Gabe in your flex at that point. I might try to flex him out for like a better matchup some weeks because I know that Stefan will always get the first looks. Stefan is always more valuable. Gabe might pop off for more 1 or 2 weeks over the whole season, but we can't bet on that. As far as James Cook, are you guys still confident in putting him in, or with seeing how quickly they went away from the run and throwing it 40 times with being down like they were never down by 3 scores. They were only down by 2 scores the whole game. Do you guys think that if the Bills aren't up, that James Cook will have almost no value?
He shouldn't get more work in the receiving game. He got -4 yards on the day. That's terrible to see. Not good for fantasy. To go off of what you said about the Jets, though, you wouldn't play receivers against the Jets.
The Jets
Sauce
defense
Gardner
is
just went down.
with what? I mean, he's not
Injured. I'm
season.
pretty sure.
He's
No,
not
not
season though.
season, but like
No, Sauce
he's
played the whole. He finished the game.
idiot.
Yeah.
My big thing is the Jets defensive line is why I don't want to play against their defense. It's their front seven is ridiculous.
Now you're
and
gonna
They
start
didn't look
Stephon
at him
Diggs.
against the Broncos.
exactly. I'm not saying not
You're
to
gonna
start
start
Stephon Diggs ever.
But I'm not starting anything past a wide receiver one. I'm not playing them with any confidence versus the Jets.
Same
And
with
that's
like
just-
New
that's just
Orleans
what
is another
everything
good
has shown
example of
me
that.
up to this point. Like, and that's not even crowning the Jets. That's just up to this point. Quarterbacks and wide receivers statistically don't have any success versus them right now. Running backs are able to pop off a little bit if they're able to break a seam, but other than that, like you're not looking at anything. Like go back and look at the Broncos game, which I mean, I'm sure we'll get into at some point, but which shout out Nathaniel Hackett, but I mean,
Hey,
and you called it this last week, Austin. Jaleel McLaughlin, like
I told
9
y'all,
carries, 68 yards, 3 receptions,
receptions.
21 yards, and a touchdown. Like
he
solid
looked
outing.
pleased, too.
But
so
their
he was
next
super
best
efficient.
Their
with
best receiver on the day was Samaje Perine.
Yeah. He was extremely
Yo.
efficient with a low amount of looks. They were playing against the Jets. So, like, you don't expect that. That's what was a little bit interesting to me. I still don't want to crown him as, like, a running back 2 or an every week starter with the
Flex.
limited sample size we've
And
seen.
if you need a guy, it's tight in the running back field.
I've got him on a roster, and I'm exactly where you're saying. I'm looking at him now. Last week, I wasn't even looking at him. I picked him up just to wait and see what he does, and he did exactly what we needed. He got a touchdown. He had a decent outing. I mean, the amount of yards he was getting on 9 carries and to have 4 targets as a running back, that's perfect. That's all we need. The only running back that's more efficient is Devin Achane, and that's just a pure scheme thing, it seems like. I mean, Jeff Wilson coming back seems interesting to me if Achane does actually miss time with this injury, because I think that any running back is going to have success in that scheme right now. They're the best running team in football, and I don't think that it's just because of Mostert and Achane.
See, the big point I was really making was if you go and look at Judy and Cortland Sutton, Sutton had 1 reception for 13 yards. Judy
Off
had
of, like,
6
2 targets.
receptions,
In the
6
fourth quarter.
receptions for 50 yards.
Yeah.
Like, so
It was in
that's
the
my
last 2
thing.
minutes.
Like, just starting, which the Broncos are just trash at this point. I mean, Russell Wilson only threw for 196, and I think
Against the
he
Jets.
had,
Against the
think-
Jets.
but I think he also had like 89 yards halfway through the third quarter. So a lot of that there's garbage time.
Yep.
So, yeah, for what it's worth, like I said, I mean, going all the way back to our original point, I do think you can start Gabe and Stefan in the certain light there. Now, what you mentioned with Achan, I don't think it's a big deal with his knee or his ankle or whatever they're putting it as on the injury report. It's Monday. You get to Friday, I think he's going to be cleared. I think he'll probably be looking at a full practice, but it is something you want to monitor going forward if he does start missing some practice time. But I agree. I mean, yes, his speed just absolutely kills you, but if you've got Jeff Wilson coming back, I mean, I don't see the running efficiency for the Dolphins changing very much.
Even Savon Ahmed wasn't as efficient as Mostert and Achane had been, but he's somebody that other people in the fantasy world were talking about before Achane became a thing. Like, people have already been looking at this running back room and trying to find who the guy was going to be. Only the true believers thought that it was going to be this rookie 3rd-round pick.
Well,
He
and
looks
even
amazing.
then, we were still saying at the beginning of the year he was worthy of like a deep, deep roster slot, like last pick of the draft, or dynasty. He had a little more value, just to wait and see. But nobody expected this kind of production out of him this early.
I didn't expect Jeff Wilson to go on IR. I think if Jeff Wilson didn't go on IR, that Achane doesn't truly hit this point until week 7 or 8 in the season. The fact that we're seeing it now has to do with the fact that we needed to see it now. He had to start for us right away, week 2 or 3. So, some other key matchups from last week. The New Orleans Saints playing against the. We told you guys to start their defense, and hopefully you did. Christian Olave barely got it done with a touchdown. If not for that, he would have been fantasy irrelevant. But we said to start him because of that touchdown potential. And if you started anybody that plays for the Patriots, man, was it rough for you.
Who'd you say would win that game?
We talked about it. I think that we said that it could have gone either way.
Yeah, and that's
I
where you guys
actually
were
think-
messing up.
I think
I was the one that said
the
y'all are
Patriots
crazy.
at home because I didn't
Yeah.
like. But I did say I hated this game. This was the game I hated the most.
And I told you, don't worry about it. Saints D is going to show up. Their offense coming together with Kamara. We're good.
Patriots-
We're golden.
The Patriots didn't even cross.
They didn't cross midfield.
No, like they didn't cross 200 total yards as a team. Like they hit 177.
That's
As a
to be
team.
expected.
That's
That's their
insane.
special teams included.
How do you start Mac Jones going forward? Like
You don't. You
How
don't.
does
I mean,
Bill-
he's happy.
But Bill came out after the game and said he's still QB1. I'm to the point where I think Bill has had enough of everyone and is tanking this season so he can get Caleb Williams
They're the
or
5th pick right now.
Drake May or
need
whoever, but
one.
he can handpick his quarterback and say, this is my last ride. Whatever happens with this quarterback is what happens, and I'm done with it.
He's
But
so close to
They're
the win
1-4
total.
right now. Like, you absolutely, why? Why would you? You're not making the playoffs in the AFC. You're not doing anything in your own division. I know Bill's not going to go out like that, but I mean, just tinfoil hat on me says Bill has said, you know what? I've seen all these other teams do it. Let me go ahead and get me one. He's never had a top 5 pick.
Never. I mean, the fact that they're the 5th pick right
That's
now.
crazy.
This was the first time since 1970 that they've been beaten by 30-point deficits 2 weeks in a row. And it's the first time that his team has ever had this type of a start. Ever. Whenever he came over from the Browns and took over the crappy New England Patriots, they still had a better year that year than they're having right now. I think you're totally
It was
right.
all Tom, baby.
That's what it
all
was.
Tom.
I mean, history is showing us at this point a good portion of that was Tom Brady.
Well, I there's that and the fact that like Bill is getting older. Like, you know,
I
he
think
can
it-
only be in his prime for so long, like that. You know, those
well,
gears
do you
turning
think it's a
and
matter of him like?
and like not caring as much. You know,
Well,
he's been in
do you
it
think
so
it's
long.
he's like out of touch, like with his
Yeah.
player, like he just can't
It's-
relate to his players and
A
stuff.
little
as
bit
much?
of that because you see the players who want to play for the coaches that are younger, like the Cardinals. That coach stepped he was a weirdo at
Well, not e-
first.
but even like in
Shoo,
the
shoo,
Twitter
shoo,
streets, like the
shots.
Patriots are just known as like lockdown city. Like you can't do
But because
anything.
that
It's
they
just
like to play for the
military
coach. He's a
style.
younger
Like
coach that can relate to the players. Like
so, like that's my
the
thing is
the
if you are
Lions,
gonna run it that way,
the
I think
Jets.
Bill is like kind of crossed that threshold of being able to get that certain message across.
Yeah.
Like Bill just needs nothing but veterans on his team. But that's the thing is no veterans want to go play for Bill because they know how it is. They've
And they know they're
talked
not
to
even
Tom,
getting
they've
paid
talked to
over
all
there.
these
Like,
other Patriots that have left out of there, and they just see that like, hey, nobody really goes back to New England unless you're J.C. Jackson.
and it's what's hurting it too is how much players want to get paid, and Bill's not willing to pay those type of players. Like, he just wants everybody on the team to make a decent amount, but like he doesn't have any player that makes like crazy bucks, you know.
So the Texans played against the Falcons, and Desmond Ritter threw for 329 yards and a touchdown.
Who
Does
was
that
shitting on him last
does
week?
that mean? And well, on top of that, your boy
Is that fake?
Kyle Pitts, had 11 targets.
No, I binged him too.
Well,
surprised you
good,
didn't drop him.
good. You benched him. Good.
I
You
started-
don't
He's
play
dropped
him
in a lot of
anymore.
leagues.
Do not play him. But my question is, do you guys think that this was more the Texans or more the Falcons? Like, we know that the Texans were going to try to stop Bijan Robinson, which they pretty successfully did.
10 fantasy points is not a great day for the
And he had a touchdown. That touchdown was unbelievable. By the way, the behind the back grab, I don't know if you guys got to see it, but
Yeah.
he
That
caught it on his
touchdown
hip.
changed
It was
his
ridiculous.
day.
Legitimately.
Yeah.
So, do you guys have any type of belief in the passing game for the Falcons, or is this just 100% the Texans' game plan was let's let Desmond Ritter throw for 329 yards, and that's our best chance of winning?
I said it to you in Friday's show. Watch D'Amico Ryan stack that box and force Desmond Ritter to beat them.
So
What
the
was the
fact
quote?
that
Took every
What's the
bit
quote?
of Desmond Ritter to beat them. Like, yes, you threw for 329 yards. 28 of 37. Great numbers there. One
Drake London had a
touchdown.
good game too.
Kind of want to see a little bit, but he also got a rushing touchdown in there. So fantasy-wise, Desmond Ritter went off. It was a
Way better
solid
than
game.
Zach Wilson, who we were
But
just
I'm not
all
carrying
about.
I'm not carrying anything from this game into next week. I'm just not.
Okay.
Would you pick him up? Ritter?
No, not at all.
Nope.
Not at all. This was a game plan decision of D'Amico Ryans, and they lost by 2 points. So I think that in a lot of ways his game plan was successful. If his offense put up more than 19, then they win.
He held them to 7 points until the fourth quarter. They allowed
Absolutely.
14 points in the fourth quarter because the Falcons were just having to throw nonstop to get back in it and got them down there to kick the game-winning field goal. Like,
I had the Texans winning that game. That was a tough beat. Yeah, they definitely should have had that one.
yeah, they should have. But
Now, Panthers
Yeah.
at the Lions. If you had a Lions player, especially Sam Laporta, #1 tight end in football right now. He was on a waiver wire in 3 of my leagues after week 1. I picked him up in 1 of them, and I'm kicking myself for picking up Hunter
you should-
Henry because I didn't want to bet too much on Sam Laporta.
You should be
Hey, you
kicking
could be
yourself
the
for
guy
not
that dropped Sam
drafting
Laporta
him in the
week
last
1.
round.
Well, that was nobody on this show, hopefully. What'd you say, Austin?
Dude, I said you guys should be kicking yourselves for not drafting him with your last pick in the draft.
And that's what I mean. Like, he was
I've been
worth
telling
the...
y'all boys.
And you didn't need to tell me, Austin. He was my favorite tight end from the draft. This draft of tight ends,
And
I
was he?
I
Because of
watched
landing
Michael
spot,
Mayer.
everything.
It was his play, his combine.
Well, yeah, that's
watching
his
him
play.
receive the ball, he was so smooth, and he only had 4 targets this game, but he's got another touchdown. This guy is unstoppable.
It's
Two-
just, but you just it's
On 4
it's
targets.
interesting with like different quarterbacks how they trust their tight ends. Like it's like their golden boy. Like Jared Goff has always been like that with his tight ends. Like,
Very-
it's
very
just
good
his
point.
safety blanket, and so it's him and Patrick Mahomes are that way. And there's only a few quarterbacks like Brock Purdy, bro. If you can get Kittle, like that is his safety blanket. He's been going to him ever since he's been in the league. Like it's kind
It
of
was just a super efficient game from the Lions all around. David
Yeah.
Montgomery, 19 carries, 109 yards, and a touchdown. Jared Goff rushing touchdown. Craig Reynolds, their backup running back, had a rushing touchdown. Jared Goff threw 3 touchdowns, 20 of 28 passing. 8 different receivers caught a pass. Like, it was just efficient. Now, one thing I will say on the other side, yeah, they only put up 24 points, but I liked what I saw out of Bryce in this game with how
247 yards and 3
the
touchdowns, dude.
the defense has been playing for the Lions, and you've been saying it all year. Adam Thielen showed you've got to start him every week. 13
11
targets, 11 receptions, 107
107
yards, and a touchdown.
Dude, it's to the point where he's a wide receiver 1 on this team, and it's because no one else exists. Jonathan Mingo's been hurt. Who's the other guy that they got last year?
Chark.
And then they
got-
drafted someone in the first round last year that was supposed to be great. He's on the waiver wire still because he still hasn't done anything, even with this great game. Let me look at the box score. I'm sure he'll pop up. No, he didn't even get a target. Like,
Yeah, Thielen's just the the vet that you can count on. He's always going to be in the right spot at the right time.
now Jonathan Mingo, 7 targets, 5 for 48. This was his
He's
first
starting
week
to
back
come
from
on.
injury, and he's available on the waiver wire. He's a sneaky pickup because I think Bryce Young continues to do this. He's going to continue to go up a little bit week by week.
Yeah.
DJ Chark, 6 targets, 3 receptions. I'm not really that interested in that, even though he got the touchdown. I'm more interested in the young guy that's got a connection with Bryce potentially, and it's just like Tank Dell. If Tank Dell didn't get this concussion this past week, we might have been able to see more from Houston. They lost their number 2 weapon in reality. So I think that... What do you guys think about Miles Sanders carrying the ball 7 times and Chuba Hubbard 9? I know that he had the groin injury last week.
At this point, I don't think you can really start any Panthers running back. I just think they're going to be
they're gonna
down
up
in
in
every
games.
game.
Exactly.
Like, they're not going to get the luxury of being able to run it. Like, they're a run first team that's not going to be able to run first.
Yeah, they play the Dolphins next week too.
A sneaky ad for tight end would be Tommy Tremble. He's been progressively getting better over the years. I think this is his 3rd year in the league, and so it's a nice, like I was mentioning, safety blankets for quarterbacks, especially rookie quarterbacks. They love their tight ends. So
He's
Tommy
competing
Tremble.
with Hayden Hurst, though. Do you think that he'll have before
He had a good-
Hayden Hurst
He had a
goes
good
down?
week
Like he'll have
this past week, but so we got to look into that and see why Hayden Hurst wasn't getting targeted as much.
because Hayden Hurst had 3 targets, 3 receptions, 21. Tommy Tremble this week only had 1 for 1 and a touchdown. So he had 1 target in the red zone for a 1-yard touchdown. But I'm afraid of everybody
good, then.
that's not Adam Thielen on this team. Bryce Young is someone I'm keeping an eye on, but I'm not necessarily starting. I do have him in a league, and I want to hold on to him now, just because after the Dolphins, they do have a little bit of an easier schedule, but not too much. The Titans at the Colts. We're sorry if you have Zach Moss and you listen to us and you didn't start him. I'm so sorry. I did the same thing.
Best running back in football.
23
hell?
carries.
It came out right before the game that Jonathan Taylor was active. He was going to play, and he
And he
wasn't
got
expected
paid
to be-
a
and he
4-year.
And he wasn't expected to be limited. 6 fucking carries, though.
Dude.
Yeah,
dude.
no.
If
So,
you were Jim Irsay, how pissed would
But-
you be watching Zach Moss knowing that you just
how
paid
much
Jonathan
as a
Taylor
Zach
$12
Moss
million a
owner,
year?
Though, does this terrify you for next week?
Well,
Like, will
I
next
think
week be
that
the
if it's a
week that
50-50
Jonathan Taylor-
okay, so at a 50-50 split with the efficiency that Zach Moss is having, with Jonathan Taylor being out there, are you afraid of starting Zach Moss? Because I think at the rest of the season, until Jonathan Taylor hits that prime that he was the number 1 running back in fantasy, until he's producing on that level, I think we see a 50-50, 60-40 split at the least. We're going to see at least 40%
I
of
can see
the...
that.
And that,
I think-
I'm
I
not
think
terrified.
Zach
They have
will
a
still
great...
be flex worthy, and
Agreed.
I do see what you're saying, that you kind of do have to start him at this point just until Jonathan Taylor completely takes over.
Exactly.
Hasn't it just been 2 weeks though? It's only
He's-
been 2 weeks, right?
No, he's had 3 good games. He's like the top 10
It-
running.
and
I think he's running back
could it
4
not
or
just-
5.
Could it not just be how good the Colts block? Because look how easily. I mean, not easily, but like Anthony Richardson gets loose. We know he's an athletic freak, but like,
Well, that's my other point is that Anthony Richardson with that shoulder injury, if it's
Yeah.
an AC joint, so it could be a grade 1 and he's probably going to miss 1 or 2 weeks. It could be a grade 3 and he could miss
Has
6 to
Anthony
8
Richardson gotten hurt in
in every single game he's played in. Yep.
yeah,
Every game.
So not looking good for that
Yeah.
track
When does
record.
the
You
Tua
guys know
treatment
how
start
he
on
injury
him?
prone players.
When does the what?
When does the Tua treatment start?
No,
for
he's
Anthony-
6'4"
you see,
and
yeah, I'm about to
fast.
say you see how big and fast and like, come on now, bro. Like he's not Tua, bro.
Now DeAndre Hopkins,
Right,
8 receptions, 8 receptions, bang,
That is.
8 receptions, 140 yards, no touchdown. Looks like he's starting to hit, midseason form. I'm still terrified of everyone that catches the ball thrown by Ryan Tannehill. So I'm still not. I never would have drafted DeAndre Hopkins this year because he plays on the Titans. So I'm terrified of starting him. I mean, if you took that bullet, you took him in like the 3rd or 4th round, you probably have to start him. So good for you that he finally popped off for a week. It was a good matchup because the Colts defense wasn't great against the wide receiver and was a lot better against the run. Derrick Henry still had the game that Derrick Henry's going to have, 13 carries for 43 yards and 0
he's-
touchdowns.
Derrick Henry lately, I mean, you look at Tajay Spears behind him, 7 carries, 34 yards, touchdown, but also added 4 receptions for 35 yards.
Yep.
So it's becoming almost to the point to where do we start thinking Derrick Henry is trade block material at the trade deadline this year?
I was trying to bring it up last week, and I'll say it bluntly. Tajay Spears is on your waiver wire, and the only time anybody's now looking at him is because he just had 16 points. Pick him up and try to
No.
trade Henry. If you have
Mr.
him,
Hulk mentioned pick him up because this guy's been progressing.
we've been talking about him the last. I've had him on my dynasty since the draft because I don't believe Derrick Henry is going to be able to produce at a high level at like 37. I don't even know how old he is, but it's too old for a running
He
back.
is not that
He's
old, and
34.
He is
He's
King
34.
Henry, so show
I
some
get that.
respect.
And now King Henry's going to London this week, so who knows?
And winter
maybe.
is coming. Don't forget, he is a Yeti monster.
But that's where I think that Tajay Spears is going to be able to take over even more. You're right. Winter's coming. Running backs are going to become more available or more valuable. I don't think that Derrick Henry's the valuable guy. I'm still trying to trade him.
What I meant by that was Derrick Henry just performs in the winter. He's known as the Yeti.
Most running backs are performing better in the winter because of the winter weather. Whenever they're playing in a non-dome, Green Bay type of scenario or Chicago or whatever, like throwing the ball just becomes so hard. That's where playoff football, having a guy like, Raheem Mostert for the 49ers, that's how they were able to just stomp on people. 300 yards in a game from that guy. What do you guys think about Chigo Zim having 9 targets for tight end?
Did you just cast a spell on me?
Chigoziem Okonkwo, the tight end. But 9 targets, 5 receptions, 33 yards, 6.6 average isn't great, but I mean it's better than Wan'Dale Robinson's like 3.9 average on the week.
Yeah, we're not looking at any players for the Giants.
This
Goodbye.
this is a Titans tight end, but
Oh, my bad.
Like you said, I mean, outside of DeAndre Hopkins, I'm not looking at any pass catchers for the Titans.
and
On the other side, though, Josh Downs
thank you.
with Gardner Minshew, I like Josh Downs' value, and I think Pittman, his value goes up as well, just because for those receivers, Minshew is more of the sit back there and throw the ball type of quarterback versus Richardson, who you're going to use his legs because of the uber athlete he is, but that takes away value from all of your pass catchers. So honestly, I think fantasy wise, Minshew being the guy, at least for now, it's kind of going to make these guys' value goes up. And I like Josh Downs more than anyone just because of the reception factor to him. He's got that like Jarvis Landry thing that he's got
Also,
going on.
his
but
average 16.2 yards per reception this past week. I mean, he's not just catching underneath balls and making it work. He's going down the field, and Minshew's getting it to him. So that's Josh Downs is the fastest receiver in the draft this year. Everyone knows that. So we expected him
I
to.
definitely think with Mitch being in there, you got to look towards these Colts receivers. Like
Now, what about Mo Alley Cox? He only had one target for 17 yards. Even
That's
after Minshew came
the
in,
biggest tight end in the league? He should be fucking just hum the ball. You know?
I agree. He's not
standing
getting
like a
it though.
monster.
So
Last year though,
he's not showing enough for me to want to pick him up. I'd honestly, in a
no.
pinch, I don't want either of these tight ends.
sometimes you get a pinch like that though. You got a tight end that gets hurt, and there's not that many. You can't hold those guys on your team. Like tight end's so slim, anyways.
Now, Giants went to the
It's such a position you have to stream sometimes.
Giants went to the Dolphins, and we mentioned how bad the Dolphins are versus tight ends. That you had to start Darren Waller, 11 targets, 8 receptions, 86 yards, no touchdowns. Amazing day. The biggest thing I want to take away from this game is that Darren Waller was lining up out wide. He was playing against our corners. He wasn't playing against our linebackers. If they're changing the way that they view him as a player because their receiving core is just so garbage, he might end up getting way more value in the future. And
If you
Dable's that dude.
If you have Waller, you should be trading him away. Like
After that
based off
game?
of what seeing what like their quarterback can do for them, like I would not want
like
a piece of that offense. He had a decent game, so if you can get anything for him, like I would trade him away.
We've got in the chat here a trade question. Would you trade George Pickens and James Conner for Devontae Smith?
So,
Like that.
if I had Devonta Smith,
I want to know who he's getting. So he
Yeah,
has
he-
Pickens and
So let me put it this way. If I have Pickens and Connor, I'm not trading for Devontae Smith.
No.
I'd trade for AJ Brown because of the
Yes.
fact that he's going to get more targets. The Pickens is the number
Devontae
one
will
target
have
on his
games that
offense.
He'll pop off, but it hasn't been consistent.
Now, James Conner's also dealing with a little bit of an injury right now. He got a little bit rolled up on this past week, so he's gonna take a little bit of a dip in production. But you have James Conner for that end of season consistency.
If you're giving away James Conner and Pickens, I think you can get more than Devontae Smith.
I was gonna
think
say-
you could get the AJ Brown. Like
Another number 2 receiver on a good team, I think Waddle is somebody that I would take those 2 players for, because he's valued more in my mind than Devonta Smith. His big playability, the quarterback that he has, the offense he's on. The Philadelphia Eagles run the ball too often to make all their receivers valuable every week. What Jacksonville did this past week, Philadelphia will never do, where they
I
have
think-
3 guys being efficient.
I think you're a little bit wrong about that. Like Philadelphia, I know they go for the run first, but like you're seeing this year, like they're actually getting into competitive games where they're kind of down and like having to do some stuff. So Devontae Smith is getting a lot more value. But who'd you rather have, Pickens or Devontae Smith? Because I'd rather have Pickens. Like
He says he already
before the
has
season
AJ.
started. Oh shit! So then if he got offered that, I would not take Devontae Smith. I would keep Pickens on my team with James Conner.
Agreed. I value both of those guys more.
Another one in here. Would you trade Burrow, Kenneth Walker Jr., and DJ Moore for Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs stack? He says his running backs are Bijan and Kamara already.
Don't ever get rid of Walker. Let me tell you that first and foremost. And don't give up hope on Burrow. Come on. now.
Yes,
I would do that 100%. DJ Moore just had the best game of his whole career. He's never going to do that again for the rest of the season, guaranteed. Burrow just finally turned it around on you, and Kenneth Walker's been consistent enough. Having Bijan scares me a little bit, but Kamara is so solid right now. And then the fact that you're going to get the Allen Diggs stack means that you've got 100 yards, 6 receptions, probably a touchdown, and 200, yards passing with 2 touchdowns, a rushing touchdown, and 15 yards rushing every week guaranteed. Even against bad matchups, Allen looked horrible in the first half at 7 points and still finished with almost 30. He just does that every week because of the
Not
rushing.
even that, but Allen and Diggs are probably
The number one stack.
a
Bes-
top 3 stack in the league outside
Tua,
of Tua and
Tyreek,
Tyreek.
and then Burrow
And
and Chase is a decent stack,
Burrow
but
and Chase
not this
but
year.
right now, I'd give the nod to Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown.
I like that more. Yeah.
Like I'd
Bro.
give that stack more. But so as far as that trade, Vinny, I would. I would
Yeah, I
trade
would take that.
Burrow, Walker, and DJ Moore for Allen and Diggs. Especially
Burrow-
if I already had Bijan and Kamara. Like I'm not worried about my running backs.
Burrow's finally getting healthy, and you just saw what he can do for his number one target. That was beautiful.
Josh
I mean,
Allen
I know
is
it's against
healthy.
the Cardinals.
Gives you 23 points a
No,
week.
Josh Allen is a risk factor. I don't know if you watched the first 5 games of this season. I don't know if you always know this. He throws up before every single game.
Okay.
That's his thing. And he has ran the ball and then jumped in the air to try to
Didn't
go
this
over
kid have
people.
a Josh Allen jersey on last week?
Last week. Last week.
Hey, he's an
Okay,
exciting
okay.
player to
Yeah.
watch, all right?
So,
He
yeah, I
is
would do that trade.
the number one quarterback in fantasy to have besides Patrick Mahomes. And in a lot of ways, with Kelsey being hurt, I'd rather have Josh Allen over Patrick Mahomes right now. Like the one quarterback I would go after no matter what is Allen, and the one receiver I would want to have with him is Diggs. To give up those 3 pieces, they're all subpar pieces that have all not been top 10 in their position, and these guys are both top 5. So I think that, again, Bijan's a little bit scary, but Kamara I'm super okay with. And Bijan's only scary in really tough matchups whenever they stack the box like Houston tried to do against them. Now, Cohen says that his team's hurt. Is Hurts, Monty, probably David Montgomery, Brees, Jonathan Taylor, Kupp, AJ, Hopkins. Any trades that he should make?
I'd roll with that.
Yeah, you good, bro.
I'd
Yeah, I
roll with
like-
that entire
I love
squad.
Hurts.
Sounded like you're stacked.
I love Demont. Brees
You
Hall's
got
scary,
AJ
but
Stack,
Brees Hall
Monty,
finally
and
turned it
Brees.
up. Like they-
But you've got JT as a backup,
Wait,
hopefully.
yeah.
So hopefully they
Kupp,
start to
AJ,
cancel out.
Hopkins is someone that I don't want, but I mean, I wouldn't want to trade any of my pieces unless I could
maybe
trade.
would try to trade
Brees and Hopkins.
after this week
I
because
was
he
gonna
had a
say-
solid outing.
I was gonna
But-
say maybe Brees for like a Kamara type. Like
Yeah,
You're not.
outside of that,
If I could trade Brees and Hopkins for a better wide receiver 3, then I might take that. 12-man. I mean, you're not going to get much on the waiver wire
crazy
in a
in
12-man.
if I could trade Brees and Hopkins and somehow get a Kamara out of it, I would
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah. Because a Kamara is just as good as a wide receiver 3 because you could put him in the flex every week. JT's a little bit scary, but yeah.
So
No problem, Vinny.
I have a trade question for y'all. Do you guys think it's good for Travis Kelsey or Sam Laporta, like straight up?
So I've
Yeah,
been.
Either
I
one?
would do that trade.
Yeah.
So you would trade for Sam Laporta?
Yes.
If I had Kelsey and I could get Sam Laporta straight up for him, I would do it. Now,
Yep.
I don't think you're going to get him straight up if you're the one with Kelsey.
Bro, but you saying that is just like it. Literally,
It's-
my mind
it's
melts
blasphemy.
because this
It's
is my
It is.
first pick
But you're
in the
trying to get
draft.
the
I feel like I'm
number one-
forfeiting fantasy
But
by
you're trying to
trading
get-
the guy away.
You're trying
Forfeiting.
to get, okay, couple things. You're trying to get the number 1 tight end in fantasy, and Kyle
Right now.
Shanahan sent the 3rd overall pick out of town for Mr. Irrelevant. Sometimes it's what you got to do for the better of your team.
Yeah, week 5, we got to stop talking about draft capital and start talking about production through the season. Draft capital matters a lot in the early decisions because we're trapped in what we have to do. But now it's week 6 coming up. We've got to start figuring out the trends. And the trend is that Kelsey, he's playing through whatever he's got, but he's obviously not a 100%. 2 years ago, Travis Kelsey, he's 33 years old. So that's the expectation. I would even throw maybe some waiver wire pickup that's kind of working out like a Tank Dell and Kelsey to try to get Sam Laporta. I would give more if they wanted more because I think that Laporta's
Tank
on,
Dell's injured.
which is, I mean, I'm
feel you. I
using
feel
an
where you're coming
example.
from. Yeah, I feel where you're
Joshua
coming from. Something
Palmer,
like that.
something like that.
So
So-
with Austin's jersey on the Bengals. Was this a get right game or was
Get
this
right,
the Cardinals?
boy. I told you last episode, you guys, boy, you need to stay tuned in. I'm giving great picks out here. The Bengals were a lock. They were a lock. You guys were down them. I told you the Cardinals ain't gonna show up against them. They did. They did show up. Like it was a good game. It was a solid game. But like the Bengals had it the whole way through. Like the Bengals finally showed up. It's the law of averages, my friends. And
I
It
love
is.
you
They
properly
had to
quoted
pump.
that, and I
I
love that,
also
Austin.
want-
You made
I
me so
had to
proud
pump.
right there. You
I
made me so
also
proud.
want to know how much Jamar Chase is going to be able to keep on a pace of getting 19 targets a
now,
game.
I mean,
He had
so did you?
6 less targets than Joe Mixon had carries.
He's the wide receiver 6 on the year because of last week. Like
Yeah.
he was having such a bad
He-
season.
192
is-
yards, 3 touchdowns, 15 receptions. That's insane, bro.
He showed you why you're supposed to draft him number 1 overall over Justin Jefferson. That last week proved why you're supposed to do that. Like, because some leagues people did, and they got,
See, I
for
disagree
it the
because I
whole
think
year.
that Justin Jefferson can just as easily put up that type of number of a game. And whenever he comes back fully healthy from this hamstring thing, that he's going to start
Not even
putting
that,
up those.
but if you drafted Jamar Chase number 1 overall, you had 4 weeks of absolute poo-poo.
that's what I
and
just said though.
Justin
Like
Jefferson was
you
still
had
giving
that.
you consistent stuff each and every week. Like,
Yeah.
he's
What
gonna
you
be
also were dealing with the
that
Joe Burrow
hamstring
injury
going for-
instead
going
of just
forward.
you were dealing with the Joe Burrow injury instead of just a crappy Kirk Cousins in prime time. Like
True.
he's never gonna be great. You
True,
know
and
what
it's
he's
Jamar
consistent.
Chase, so I'm not going to say, oh, well, this was like a one-shot wonder and stuff, but
Yeah.
we do need to take it for
He's
what
bigger
it
body.
was, and it was an insane game out of the norm. He's not going to get 15 receptions in another
No, but
game
he
this
should-
year. broke
he
a
should
Bengals
be getting
record by
10 a
3
game.
receptions.
I
He should
don't.
be getting 10 again.
I don't agree
you're
with
not
you,
getting him
Justin.
10.
I think that he could get 15 again. I
mean,
think
he
that
could, but is he going to get targeted 19 times again?
he shouldn't. That's Keenan Allen numbers. Like that's Keenan Allen's career is having
Which
you know,
makes sense why he's been so injury prone.
Yeah,
like,
I mean he just
numbers
gets tackled
like that.
20 times a
Yeah.
game. Like there you go.
Which you think about that in the long run, like it's so weird to think about. Like receivers, like these receivers that play football, they want to stay healthy, so they just continuously collect paychecks, right? Like that's their job. So
thing-
it's very interesting. Like the people that get fed, like
I think
they
we've
get banged up
seen
a lot more.
a lot over the last, I'd say, 3 or 4 years is this mentality shift of fighting for every yard isn't worth taking the extra contact.
You
that
see-
getting out of bounds after I've gotten the first is totally okay. It'd be
You
better
see
to not take the
difference
hit.
in, like younger receivers compared to like the veterans who know that they need to reserve their body and just get down. Like it's so interesting seeing that when they're playing on the field. Like
Which brings us to a good question. So Cohen asked Brees Hall and DeAndre Hopkins for Garrett Wilson. Now, I would love to get DeAndre Hopkins off my team. I'm still afraid of Garrett Wilson because he's tied to the success of Zach Wilson. And
think you're-
against the worst team in football, against wide receivers and quarterbacks, Zach Wilson didn't look like a god among men. That scares me a little bit for the future of like Garrett and Zach.
so, I don't know if he's sending the trade out or receiving it, but I would
He'd be
searching-
getting Garrett Wilson for Brees Hall and Hopkins. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't know
get
if
what-
he's.
get
I
what
don't
you're
know if
saying.
he's looking for those players, but like I would be looking in a different direction on a different team. Like stay
Yeah,
away
if
from
I
the Jets.
have Garrett Wilson, I don't know if I'm doing that.
Get rid of
Oh.
Brees if you can, and try to get another player on another team.
Because yes, it was the Broncos, so you expected to see him go off, but he also had Pat Surtain Jr. on him most of the game.
Except for that, whenever Zach Wilson like beamed it at him from 4 yards away in the red zone on their first drive, like that was an easy touchdown. If Zach just chilled out and threw the ball to his guy, and instead he acted like it was a 50-yard bomb, threw it at him. It bounced off of his hands. He's lucky it wasn't picked in the end zone.
And at the end of the game, he targeted Garrett Wilson and went to throw back shoulder, threw it too far inside,
Yep.
and Pat Surtain came away with an interception. Now,
Yeah.
like I said, I mean, it kind of expected, I guess, to see more out of Zach after what he showed last week versus the Chiefs, especially versus the Broncos. But then again, he kind of showed you what Zach Wilson is.
Here's a crazy one. would you,
much?
instead of Garrett Wilson, do that exact same trade for Adam Thielen?
Ew, no.
Brees Hall
What
and
are we
Hopkins for
talking about?
Thielen? No.
Now,
Stop.
what about a lesser running back and Hopkins for Thielen? What about like a
Kenneth
If I have
Walker?
Thielen, no.
Kenneth Walker.
That's
If
what
you
I'm
can get
saying.
No,
Kenneth
no, no, no,
Walker for
no.
those
You're
two-
trying to get Thielen. If you have Hopkins and like a Justice Hill or somebody that's a subpar running back and Hopkins for a Thielen, I think that's a
If
huge
somebody's
upgrade.
going to agree to that fleece job, then yeah, I would do it.
I mean, that's what I would be trying to go for because I think that like Thielen is
It's
a
hard
player.
to say that Thielen's just gonna be healthy for the rest of the year. This is such an older receiver.
I mean,
bro.
I
Like,
get
he's
that.
Gonna do it
We-
for a couple weeks, but like, it's so much easier to trust these younger receivers.
Like
who
you're
are
not
just
going to
built
get a
different.
George Pickens. You're not going to get like some of these top receiving targets from this week, but
Especially
you
after the week he
could
had.
get Adam Thielen. And if Adam Thielen continues to
That's
produce
not
through the whole
exciting,
season,
though.
like
not exciting.
it's not exciting, but that could win you a league, dude. DeAndre Hopkins, I have way less expectations for than I do for Thielen because of the guy throwing him the football. Bryce Young's only getting better and better. Tannehill is not. So I mean,
I'd rather have Addison than Thielen.
I'm not totally against Brees Hall and Hopkins for Garrett Wilson. I think that it's a lot riskier than I would want. I would rather get rid of Hopkins and keep Brees Hall and try to get something lesser.
Hopkins has had the better year so far, right? Like he's had more games, more points, like
Than
more
who?
production
Than
than
Adam
Brees Hall.
Thielen? Oh, then Brees Hall?
Because you were saying
Technically, because Brees Hall only had the one good game. They're both, I mean, all three players are huge question marks that we'll know more about in the coming weeks. But I'm still, Garrett Wilson's tied to Zach Wilson. That scares me a little bit to just like go all in on him and to trade away Brees, who I think has more potential.
I mean, he showed you he is the best back in football last week. If you
Devin
just feed
Achane.
him that ball,
Devin
no,
Achane.
Achane's right behind him, bro. It's something
Right
like,
in front of him.
we need to
He
see
can't
it.
even
No,
catch up.
we
Only
need
player
to see it
faster.
first. We need to see it first in the receiving
11
game,
for 151.
Brees is the best all-around back, bro. Come on.
He had like
Coming
3
off an
touchdowns
injury,
his first
bro.
week. That's fine.
Injury.
So going back to the Bengals game versus the Cardinals, hopefully you didn't start Michael Wilson like I was forced to because he only had 2 targets for 1 reception, 18 yards.
Yeah.
That's rough. Marquise Brown, we were talking last week about how the Cardinals could potentially trade him. He had 4 for 61 and a touchdown with 10 targets.
They just acquired him. Why would they want to be trading him?
To go all in on next year, to just totally tank it out and get
Good
whatever
job,
resources
son.
they can. That's the right move, especially a team like what
You
they just
think-
played in
You
Cincinnati.
think they're playing like they're trying to tank? They're playing out of their minds.
They are. I mean, I agree.
Like
They're playing
going
hard.
balls to
They're
the
still
walls right
1-4.
now. I get that, but like, when you watch those games, do they seem like they're 1-4? They seem like they're like the Rams. Like they're staying in all of these games. They've yet to be blown out.
Well,
That's
speaking
insane.
of the Rams,
We thought they were the worst team in the league.
Rams with the Eagles took the L 23-14.
Nah, that was a tough game, man. I was watching that. I had
That
the
was a hard-
Rams.
Yeah, that
Money
was a
on the
hard fought
Rams.
game. But first point I want to make is exactly what I said to you this last week. Do not be shocked if you see Cooper and Puka both get 8 to 10 targets for 7 to 10 receptions apiece, and still
It
both
started-
of them be fantasy relevant.
It started off
Targets
rough.
for
slow.
Kupp,
Yeah.
11 targets.
Cooper
for
was
Puka.
getting fed.
Early,
Eight
and then
receptions.
whenever
Yeah.
what was awesome is like Justin said as well, the Bobby Trees role was always that at the second half of the game, whenever they're blanketing Cooper, then Bobby Trees is available to be able to make catches, and all he had to do was be open and be able to put his hands on the ball. Puka is a great possession receiver.
Puka didn't dominate like I wanted to see from him. Like
He
for being
did
the number
everything
2 guy.
I wanted
like,
to see to start
But
him every
they
week.
needed to
71
come out
and
with
a
a
touchdown.
win. I know, but there was more. Like we needed to see just a little bit more. Like for them to
The
win
man
that
gave you
game, for
20
those 2
points.
receivers to be on the field and doing that type of action with Stafford there, you should not lose that game.
So if
those
Puka
type of
had
receivers.
Tutu Atwell numbers, if he had 5 targets, 2 receptions, 9 yards, and a touchdown, I would be terrified because he only got saved by the touchdown. He didn't really show enough production. We said earlier, 6 targets for a flex 8 for a wide receiver 2. 10 plus is a wide receiver 1. On most teams, Puka Nacua is an every week start, in my opinion, at this point. If he shows otherwise, we can make other decisions, but we have to go off of this historic start. I mean, the guy's getting 11 targets with Cooper being on the field. That's what I wanted to see.
Now, on the other side, shout out Dallas Goedert.
Goddard.
Showing up.
Goddard, we mentioned him as the tight end that you wanted to start this week. Goddard, you know who I'm talking about.
Yogurt. It's my favorite yogurt, baby. Let's go.
No, I think it was the first name Dallas that got you shook, but it's okay. We'll get into that one later. But 8 receptions, 117 yards, and a tutty for you on the day.
They worked him, dude.
Yeah.
Worked him the ball. It's like they knew that everyone was bitching about him, so they were just like, let's.
And this is going back to what we were talking about, with the trade stuff earlier, is Devontae Smith, 5 targets, 1 reception for 6 yards. Now, that's not going to happen every week.
On top of that, 39 rushing attempts for Philadelphia compared to 25 passing attempts. That split is what terrifies me more than anything else. Jalen Hurts carried the ball 15 times. DeAndre Hopkins
passing attempts, 25 completions.
25 completions. But still, like, the running it that many times, 15 times they ran it with Hurts.
That's the thing. It's not the 39 rushing attempts. It's the fact that your quarterback had 15 of them.
Yeah.
Well,
and a bunch of those were the Philly push.
The 4th and 1 or 3rd and 1.
Yeah.
Like,
which I get, but that's still 11 rushes, dude.
And which was insane to watch. Like, how they could just not stop it.
I
Like,
didn't get it
nobody
either,
else
man.
in the league runs like that. And it's just them, and
Dude,
they're doing
they
it. And
attempted to do it from 2 yards away and still almost got it.
Almost got it. I love that.
I was like, no,
that was almost 3 yards. That was like 2.5 yards, dude. That was insane. So,
Chef Anabi in the chat, trade Pierce and Laporta for Mixon. Running backs would be Stevenson, Mixon, Taylor, Swift, and Brees.
I'm not trading
Taylor Swift on your roster because she's not going to get you any fantasy points.
Taylor, Swift.
Oh, didn't see that.
So he's got Taylor and Swift. No, I'm not looking for Pierce. I don't. Wait.
Because who would your tight end be at that point if you traded Laporta away?
Yeah, I'm not trading Laporta.
He could have Kelsey at the 1.
Then I'm trading Kelsey. Then I'm trading Kelsey for a wide receiver 2.
Yeah,
I would start Taylor, Swift, and Kelsey every
He has Andrews. I'd be trading Andrews right now. Andrews had a great week. He looks like the number 1 guy on his team, but his team doesn't throw the ball as efficiently as the Lions. And just in general...
I would trade Pierce and Andrews for Mixon and maybe an extra kicker there.
And if I have Stevenson...
Not like an actual kicker.
I was like
a trade kicker.
Who the hell trades for a kicker?
If I've got Stevenson, JT, Swift, and Brees... I definitely think that between Stevenson, Taylor, and Brees, that I've got at least one more running back too. And Swift has shown himself to be an RB1. I mean, 17 carries. The fact that he had 70 yards, which is only 4.1, doesn't matter. He gets the ball enough times every game to be an every week start. So I would definitely be trying to get rid of Andrews and...
Wait. Isn't Gainwell still injured? Like, isn't that why Swift is getting the work
he's been there the last 3 weeks. The first week that Gainwell was in, it was a 50-50 split. The first quarter was Swift. Second quarter was Gainwell. Third quarter was Swift. Fourth quarter was Gainwell. After that game, it's been Swift 70-30 easy.
Where you drafted Swift, you're so happy with what his production is. Like, he was so late in the draft. Like, it was such a nasty snag to get. You got to rock with that, especially that running offense. And they're going to slowly use Hurts less and less as the year goes on. Like, they're not going to want to rock with him.
Another player to try to trade for, Kyron Williams, probably has a lot of like perceived value by people.
That's a hard one to get.
But because of the fact
that... Because of the down week.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Because of the fact that he had a decent week, he had 53 yards on 13 carries. Not great, no touchdowns.
Tough defense to go against, but if you can get him,
I'm trying to get him this week. Even like a Pierce and a Laporte and an Andrews. I mean, you should easily be able to get.
It's crazy trying to invest in people who are like running backs we had no clue about coming into the year, like these secondary, third.
For me,
running
it's the
backs on
team. I see this as
Yeah,
this
no,
could be
100%.
Todd Gurley in 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, he doesn't have the talent of Todd Gurley, but he's
It's
going to
the
get the
coaching
production.
staff.
Exactly.
Like,
They're getting him the
bro.
ball well. And that overtime victory from the week before, where Kyron was a big part of that final drive, that shows a lot of trust in him as a player. That they're trying to get it to him on third downs, and he's getting the first. Like, they love him. So they traded away Cam Akers for him.
Speaking of trade targets, that's why I'm
So
so high on.
I could try to
Kenneth
trade
Walker.
Andrews and Pierce for Mixon and Cup. I mean, I love that.
I don't think it'll get accepted.
I
but
don't think
yeah,
so
I would
either.
try that.
I would maybe
So-
say even without Mixon in that trade, just Andrews and Pierce for Cup. Again, you kind of need a running back, but you kind of don't. Stevenson is not going to be great, but he's going to have his good matchups. Jonathan Taylor and Brees, like one of these guys is going to end up being a end of the season push that's going to be great. One of those two is going to be a solid guy. Even if Jonathan Taylor's getting a 50-50 for the rest of the season, I think on all that offense he shows value. JT and Brees Hall for Kyron. What do you guys think of
That's
that?
much right there. That's too much.
That's something that'd be accepted for
that's-
sure.
100% be accepted, but
I don't think I'd do it.
I wouldn't trade that away.
I'd maybe
That's too
try
much
Stevenson and Brees or something like that and keep JT. I think that JT's on a better team that's going to be grinding out games more often. They're going to be just needing the carries. So I think that something like that would work a lot better. We only have a couple more matchups to talk about, right?
Yeah.
We already talked Saints and
Vikings
Chiefs,
and
Vikings.
then Dallas Niners.
Chiefs Vikings. Pacheco 16 carries, 55 and a touchdown. We were talking about it before the game. This guy looks like he's just a hard-nosed runner that you have to play. He's so competitive. He's competing for every carry he gets. I want nothing more out of a running back than that.
That's a great trade value or a trade target to go after right now.
Because he's
that
been
man
decent,
picks
but
him
not.
up and puts him down.
Yeah, he hasn't been on top of the world.
Yeah. So like it's someone you could get, running back for.
Kirk Cousins,
what you
284, 2 touchdowns. He actually didn't lose, it for his team. It was everyone else dropping the ball. I can't believe the amount of fumbles that this team's having.
Now Jefferson going out.
That's big.
I will go ahead and say he's probably going to be doubtful for next week.
Yep.
with his
They're
hamstring.
not going to put with the injury that they're dealing, or I'm sorry, with the way that their record looks right now, they're not going for the playoffs anymore. So having him fully healthy is the only way that he's going to be on the field. I'm thinking 80-90% at the minimum, which sucks if you own him.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would rather him be healthy as well. Like, I'd rather not have to make the decision and him put up a subpar game like he did this past week. I'd rather know that he's fully 100% healthy.
And
Now, I
this is
think
why I drafted Jordan Addison. For
On
this
the
reason right
Chiefs
here.
side,
He's
I
shown he can do
think
it.
anybody outside of Travis Kelce, you don't need to worry about playing.
Nope. Kadarius
Like,
Toney had
Pacheco-
6 targets,
Pacheco,
but
as far as pass catching, yeah, if you don't have Kelsey, there's literally no point to start any of them.
Rashi Rice getting a touchdown again
That
doesn't
man-
matter to me.
He is kind of slow. He was the guy that I was excited about coming into the year after seeing like their little YouTube thing that they do, the franchise YouTube thing that they have going on for the Chiefs. Rasheed Rice looks like that dude. Like the Chiefs don't have that number one receiver ever since Tyreek left, and he just looks like a guy that could come in and be that guy. It's slowly, progressively going towards that.
He is getting
but-
more and more work, and you can see that Patrick.
He's really young,
Trust
so-
him a little more, but even so, like I've had him stashed on my dynasty roster all season,
It's a good
just
stash.
kind of waiting for him, waiting to see. But yeah, outside of Travis Kelce, Pacheco, and Mahomes, I don't think there's any Chiefs worth starting. Going forward, Addison's value obviously goes up. Hawkinson's value obviously goes up from what it was. And KJ Osborne, if he's out there on your waiver wire, I'd try to snatch him up because somebody's going to have to pick up the slack. Madison, though, another down game, 8 carries, 26 yards. Now, the game script kind of dictated that they needed to throw a lot in the second half, so that's where that came from. But yeah, going forward, I think the Viking season, like you kind of said, they're going to still fight, but it's pretty much a wash. And that's what it was, a get right game for Kelsey and Mahomes after what they showed, versus the Jets last week. So
That's the number one stadium I want to go see a football game in.
So
When that
Cohen,
horn gets the like, it's like, I can only imagine being there. It's got to feel so cool. Like,
so Cohen,
only the Vikings could perform.
So Cohen, to clarify, you got offered Kyron for your Brees Hall and George Pickens. Yeah. Who's your other running back? I mean receivers, because I don't know if I want to get rid of Pickens, man. What do you guys think of that? Like, he's been getting fed so much.
I don't
my
know if
favorite-
I'm giving up 2 players for Kyron Williams.
I think that that's a safe call too. Maybe Brees Hall for Kyron, like, because he popped off so much this week, straight up, and then you get to keep Pickens.
Maybe.
I'd offer something more like that. I mean, I think Kyron Williams has more value over the long term, because I think that the Rams are going to be up in more games than the Jets throughout the season. So, like, the Rams are going to be needing to close out games by running it more, and Kyron does receive it. And there's no Dalvin Cook, there's no Michael Carter, there's nobody else really behind Kyron to, like, take away his looks. So I'd offer something like that, but I really want to hold on to Pickens. I mean, I started him
Never
this
get
past
rid of
week,
Pickens.
and he is electric. I mean, the guy is going to be a force. If Kenny Pickett can get his head out of his ass and run that offense, then, I mean, there might be more than one pass catcher there, but Pickens is at least going to get his every week, it seems like.
Damn right.
All right, so we get to talk about Austin's, the bane of Austin's Sunday.
Just go ahead
The
and
reason,
take the Band-Aid off.
10-42. Ouch.
Brock Purdy.
Yes, I think that's all that we need to talk about,
looking
dude.
Very efficient this year, and to the point to where I'm not even saying anymore that, oh, it's Shanahan's system, Shanahan can make any quarterback, yada. The way he's running the system right now, if that's the case, like that, I really think the 49ers have something. They look like the most complete team top to bottom. They look like on the fast track, barring any major injuries, Super Bowl. I mean,
You guys want to talk shit?
their backup running back ran for 69 yards and didn't really get much work until the second half.
Yeah. So I think if you want to say anything about the Dallas Cowboys in this game, you're a peasant and you're ignorant, because this is the best football team we've ever seen come to play.
The
Like,
49ers?
in our lifetime, yes. We have never seen a team more complete than this team. This rookie quarterback, not rookie, but like second-year quarterback, last pick draft, doing things nobody
A
has
9-0.
ever done.
I mean, 9-0 in his career.
Undefeated, bro. Like, it's to the point where I was the biggest like Brock Purdy hater, because it was like, all right, he's got to lose at some point. But like, what he's been doing is just miraculous. And if they're gonna have an undefeated season and then win the Super Bowl, I'm not even gonna be surprised by it. I'm not gonna be surprised, bro. This team is
But-
in fucking insane.
But
Insane.
for the Cowboys, for everything that was been said the first 4 weeks, even take out the Cardinals snafu aside, dominate the Jets, you dominate the Giants.
Oh, you want to talk about
and
the
to come
Cowboys?
out- and to come out and just lay this egg, and I'm not even really looking
Listen,
at the
listen,
Cowboys
listen.
team, looking at the Cowboys defense. I'm looking at Dak
Prescott.
Oh, you
And
guys are looking at
time-
Dak? Don't look at
time-
him. Don't look at him.
Time
Hold
and
on.
time
Hold on.
again. No,
I'll
hold
show you who
on.
to look at. No, I'll
Time
show you who to
and
look
time
at.
again. In big games, Dak Prescott just continues to show us he cannot get the job done.
I think it starts with the offensive coordinator. We have a new one. It's Mike McCarthy. I like this guy since he came into coaching Dallas.
What
Get
was
him
the
out.
excuse last year?
I
No.
never liked this dude. We had an
It was
offensive
Kellen
coordinator
Moore
last year.
What was the
And
excuse?
we
last
had a
year?
better chance. It looked better. It looked
What,
like we had
did
a
it?
fighting chance.
Did it? Because
Yeah.
Dak Prescott was one of the top guys in the league in interceptions last year and only played 12 games.
You know
Did it
who
look better?
the top guys in the interceptions were this week coming into the year? Tua, every single quarterback besides Dak. He had one.
Tua
he didn't even
has
have a.
5 on
He
the
didn't even
year.
have
Dak
an
had
interception.
3 in one game.
This
Keep
game,
continuing.
he didn't have any before this game. So get at me, bro. Like the offensive coordinator, bro. Come on, like it's so clear and obvious. Like I've been watching the Cowboys for years. This guy comes in. We had an offensive coordinator before. He
Kellen
leaves.
Moore was your offensive coordinator last
Yes.
year.
Yeah,
And
I
it
get-
looks
I know.
Austin,
the exact
Austin.
same as
I-
it does this year.
No,
Austin.
it does not. It is
Austin.
totally different, bro. We are not able to move the ball down the field.
Austin,
Are you kidding me?
I think that your biggest problem is the most important part of the offense. It's the guy who, whenever he sees something, he's supposed to check out of it into a better play. He's supposed to make the right calls at the right times. Dak Prescott is your problem. You guys have the pieces on your offensive line. You have the
so
pieces.
McCarthy's not a problem at all.
I
He
mean,
coach us
I
for the
don't-
rest of the until he dies.
I'm not saying I don't
No,
think
he
McCarthy
sucks, bro.
is not the problem.
I'm just saying
But I'm
that
also
Dak
McCarthy
Prescott,
sucks.
Y'all
ever
got
since-
rid of Kellen Moore so you could unlock Dak because
And-
Kellen Moore was the problem for Dak.
No, he wasn't.
And you got rid of Kellen Moore so Mike McCarthy could run the offense, and nothing has changed. Like I
Except
like
for our
Dak as
offenses
a
looked a
player.
lot
I don't
more
think he's
worse.
absolutely
all right, guys.
trash,
Let's
but I do
So-
think we're seeing that Dak is the guy that's holding them back.
So here's a question for you: 10-team, 0.5 PPR, 2 flex. They're going to send Kelsey and Mostert and receive Jefferson and Ingram. My question would be,
love
how much of a need at receiver do we have, and do we have 2 running backs that can be solid? Because I definitely think Mostert's best games are behind him. With if Achane is healthy, then Mostert's the running back 2 on this
Dude,
offense.
if you can get Jefferson and Ingram for that, 100%
Yeah.
pull that trade off.
And they received that, so they would be able to get it. They could click accept right
Well,
now. So
my thought at that would be you could trade Kelsey and Mostert for Jefferson. If you're getting Ingram as well, then that's just icing on the cake there. So
and it's because of the fear of the Jefferson injury. But again, if you're playing for playoffs, Jefferson's one of the best players to have. He's going to pop off at the end of the season. They're going to have home games.
It's just a hamstring injury. It's
Exactly.
Not like it's a knee or ankle.
I'm not worried about him at all. The way he pulled up and he
Maybe 2
acted like an
weeks.
athlete. So I think people are a lot afraid of like the towel over the head thing whenever he was getting like carded or getting taken to the back. That's a thing that happens whenever it's season ending. So they're trying to freak out and make a trade before the news comes out. I think you take
It is
advantage.
not season injury.
Not at all. I
Season
think that he was
injury.
upset about losing that game to the Chiefs in a
Yeah.
must-win. It had nothing to do with the state of his injury. He just knew he couldn't compete for the rest of that game, and that right there is enough for him to get upset. So yeah, I would take that all day. Going back to the 49ers game, Brandon Ayuk had 7 targets, 4 receptions for 58. He would have had another 40-yard reception if it wasn't for a holding call. That was a super late call. I didn't really think that it was necessary. So his day could have been a lot better. Deebo Samuels, man, he only had 3 targets for 3 receptions for 55 yards, and he only had 5 carries. They are not utilizing him a lot right now, and I think that it's all
receiver.
injury. It's because of the injury that he has that they want him out there as more of a decoy than anything else. What do you guys think about? He's got something with his quad. He showed up on the practice injury report like 2 weeks ago.
That's a weird injury to have. Like top of your leg, bro.
So what do you guys think about Brandon Ayuk? Like as a starter, I mean, we're talking about how good Brock Purdy is.
He's wide
What do you?
receiver
Why are you
one
even questioning
material
that?
guy.
I think so too,
How
man.
he's been performing?
Yeah, you
Like,
started-
He
I know
looks
last
so
week was a
electric,
down
dude.
week, but they were so far up they didn't need him. Like
That catch that didn't count, he looked like he was about to run circles around everybody on the field when he had the ball in his hand. He looked so electric.
Well, it's the way Shanahan's just able to scheme these dudes open too. Like he's catching the ball 20 yards down the field in the middle of the field with nobody around him.
So Derek says that his wide receivers are Lamb, Ridley, and Olave, and his other running backs are Kamara, Madison, and Roshan. So Kamara, Madison, and Roshan or
needs
Lamb, Ridley,
running back
Olave.
help.
I say that you need running back help, man. Trading away Mostert for Jefferson, like yeah. Now at the same time, that's going to give him an elite ass receiving core, and he gets to start two
He
flexes.
does have elite
So
receiving core.
that means that he can start Lamb, Ridley, Olave, and Jefferson, and then he's going to have to start Kamara every week, and then Madison and Roshan. With keeping your eye on the waiver wire. Yeah, I mean, he says it too. Needs another running back, but getting JJ sounds great. I might still take that trade because of the two flex, because I can start, bro, Lamb, Ridley, and Jefferson week in, week out. That should be 60 points. Like, on average, whenever all of them play. And then Olave's another 10 to 15 on average. That's a lot of points, man. I don't care if somebody has two sick running backs. They're going to have a hard time hitting that. Chris asks, should he trade away Waller to acquire Brees Hall? His running back is bad, and he has Sam Laporta. Yes. I don't know for Brees Hall. I might try to get something a tier above Brees Hall, but
I would go for
Kenneth
Walker.
If you can trade Darren Waller for
Brian Robinson.
Yeah, I mean, I Kenneth Walker more. But yeah,
Brian had a bad week last week, so I feel like you could actually get him.
Agreed.
He's been doing so solid on the year. Like,
I mean,
he's looked like a Brees Hall, Kenneth Walker type back, like just a tier down. But those are the running backs I'm going after.
Do we have a quick preview for the Thursday night game?
Who we got?
It's going to be the Chiefs versus Broncos, so it's going to be a bloodbath.
And like we said, I mean, I'm still not starting Rashee Rice. I'm still not starting Kadarius Toney. I'm still not starting Sky Moore. And I'm not starting anybody on the Broncos this week. Jaleel is only going to have value.
The backup running back. The running back.
Jaleel?
Jaleel. I think he might, can get some value because the Chiefs don't have that greatest of running defense. And he does get some receiving work. So he's an elite back. He's elusive.
He's elite.
He's elite.
He said, go.
I'm with you. You start Mahomes, Pacheco, Kelsey. You're maybe starting Judy in a desperate spot, depending. But other than that, I'm really not starting any. I'm not starting Jaleel McLaughlin this week. It's another week where it's like, okay, let's see how he fits into the system. But this is another one of those Thursday night games. The Chiefs should win by 20 points. It's going to be a dud to watch, but hey, it's football, and you're probably going to have bets on it, so that's always fun.
What's the spread on the game?
While you're looking that up, last question. No problem, Derek. Appreciate the insight. So Chris says, too early for giving away Waller to get JT trade. Because of the boom that Waller just had and the fact that JT did nothing, you'd probably get that. And with your team, I mean, that would make me happy. I have Madison, Roshan while I'm waiting for Waller, especially having Roshan right now with Khalil Herbert getting hurt. People aren't going to really see the value that he has until next week after he gets all the carries for his team. He's the only guy there. Should be the number one waiver wire pickup if he's still available because of the Herbert injury is going to be at least 3 weeks, probably 2 to 3, but we're looking at 3+. So, I mean, I would love to get JT because by the time Herbert comes back, if Roshan has no value between now and then, JT should be ramped up by then and should be getting the carries to at least be getting a 50-50 split. Like we said at the beginning of the episode, if we can get a 50-50 split between Zach Moss and JT, I might start both of them right now and at least see where we're going with that.
Speaking of Herbert, Justin Herbert, he's got a broken finger. So watch out for that.
Ooh, that's rough.
He got it on the week before coming into this bye week. It's on his non-throwing hand, so it's not the biggest injury, but like
keep an eye on that for sure. So Ed, thanks.
Minus 10.5, by the way.
Minus 10.5?
That's a huge spread. I looked at it and don't feel confident about taking the Chiefs, especially after what they've done for this 3
They're
weeks.
playing the Broncos.
I know, I get that, but the Chiefs have shown us that they don't care about spreads. They care about just winning the game.
Valid.
And I can't trust that team. They don't have a number one receiver. They got a number one tight end. Like, tight ends can only do so much, and this guy is freaking banged up. He's got a hurt ankle, so I don't like that spread right now. As the week progresses, I would take the Broncos, especially what Russell Wilson looked like last week. Didn't look bad. Looked like prime
I'll
Russell
keep
Wilson.
my eye out for that bet coming through.
So,
Hey, you sure as hell will.
Chris, I would say that this is the week that you have to trade Darren Waller. Have to. He finally had the good week. He's not going to get to play the Dolphins for the rest of the season, so the chances of him doing that again are very low. So any good running back, I think JT's probably the best running back that nobody believes in right now because of Zach Moss. So that's probably the player that I would go for. I don't think that you're going to get a starter like a Kenneth Walker or something else for Waller whenever he's done nothing up until this point.
It's gonna be tough trying to make JT off a guy's team whenever he's invested 4 or 5 weeks into him. You might be able to get him because of this past week and like him not popping. You know, like this is the time to go after him because he did play and he didn't do all that well. But I do like JT as a trade target.
So thank you guys for listening. We're going to take one more question. I guess Ray Gamer needs some help. We'll wait for him to type it out. While we're doing that, thanks for joining in on the live stream. We're going to be live again on Friday at 8:30 to do a preview of every matchup for the week. So we'll be telling you what matchups we like and don't like. And we're going to do another live stream on Sunday for a little bit of start-sit advice. So Ray says that he's down by 9 yards. He is Christian Watson, and his opponent has Devontae Adams in standard. He could have played Moss, McLaughlin, and now Myers over Watson and Gus. He wants to trade away Barkley and Moss to get a new RB1.
That's a lot to type out.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to trade away Barkley. I know that he plays for the Giants, but I mean,
if you can get good value for him, I would. Like if you could get like a Walker, like I would definitely get something like
I'd need
or
more than that.
See,
Achan.
I think I'd hold on to Barkley and Moss.
Yeah, for now.
What if you could get Achan for him?
That's still a lot of risk. A lot of risk. The thing that we said at the beginning of this show is that if Moss moves up to a 50-50 split, anything less than 60-40, we're not starting Moss anymore. But at this point, he just looks so consistent. What RBs do you recommend trading for other than Eckler, Pollard, Mixon, and Walker? Because he already tried for them. I think that if you give a guy that has less value, like, okay, if I had Moss, I might try to trade for Kyron Williams. I think Kyron Williams is going to have value all year, and people don't expect too much from him. I know we've said him a lot, but that's a trade target that I think you'll get. I think you'll be able to get a player like Kyron Williams where you're never going to get Eckler or Pollard off someone's team without giving a player of equal consideration, and Saquon's just not that right now. But you guys have anybody? Any trade target? RBs?
I have a question.
Kamara.
Kamara's another good one.
Kenneth
Yep.
Walker,
Kamara would be one.
maybe JT. It's really tough in that running back world, though. Like
It's
That's
hard
the
to.
problem is most people that have running backs aren't
I know
looking
Kenneth.
to get rid of
I
him.
know Kenneth is going to get a touchdown every game.
Like he even
That's
said he
just how
tried to
Seattle
trade for
running backs
Mixon
run.
and he wasn't able to get him. And Mixon's had an okay season so far. So
yeah,
everyone's trying to
if you're
hold on
not
to their
able
running
get
backs.
Mixon, yeah, it's probably gonna be hard to get somebody else.
So I told y'all boys I sent the trade for Kelsey, for Laporta. He sent back the trade, Kyron Williams and Laporta for Kelsey and Achan.
No,
No.
Swift decline.
No. I'm not giving up
I
Achan.
respect him. I respect him for the trade.
Yeah, for
like,
going for it.
I don't.
Damn though.
Get outta here with that.
That's tough.
All right.
That's
Well,
tough.
this episode and all future episodes are brought to you by Tulsi Rose Tea. Get all your tea needs at TulsiRoseTea.com. Thanks for choosing, Lost Chubb this year, Ray Gamer. I feel you heavy on that one. At least you didn't pick Derrick Henry. So we'll see you guys again on Friday. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you again soon. Peace.
Love you guys.
Peace out.